Senator Schatz.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for a great panel. I want to start on the question of alignment. There's been a fair amount of conversation about sort of geopolitical, geostrategic alignment. I want to talk about alignment of values. And I guess I'll start with Mr. Miller. It occurs to me that the operating assumption is that American companies are going to represent American values. And that is not obvious to me in the AI space and in the chip manufacturing space. And I'm wondering whether you see alignment as already something that we've achieved, something we need to work towards. And if we need to work towards it, is UNESCO the right venue for effectuating that kind of alignment? Does it happen organically? I'm just wondering, the reason we're supposed to win this race is because of our values and our priorities. It's not obvious to me that the private sector actors here are yet aligned with our values and our priorities, and I'd like you to comment on that. I'll start with Mr. Miller.
Well, Senator, I would say that American companies have to be responsive to American regulations and American laws, whereas Chinese companies are responsive to Chinese regulations and Chinese laws. And so to me, the stakes of the race are which set of laws and regulations you'd like to have dictate your AI systems.
Mr. Allen.
I think Chris put it very well in talking about the laws and regulations. And to the extent that companies do or do not have values that we like, we should change their incentive structure to ensure that they do. One thing that I think is very frustrating in the conversation about China is that China is very happy to punish any American company for any negative thing they say about China. And so companies that have large businesses in China will never tell the truth to the American people about the reality of the Chinese Communist Party. And so there's an asymmetry in the discourse because of that immediate willingness to punish. And so I think what we need to do is, if you look at senior American AI executives who predict, for example, that China will win the AI race, what we need to make clear to these companies is that that would be terrible for your business. And your job is to make as much profit as possible, and you will make the most profit possible by preventing China from winning the AI race and by following American laws and regulations in ways that are compliant with American values.
Mr. Chabra.
Senator, our view is that AI is too transformational a technology not to be governed by our democratic processing values. We think it's absolutely essential that the federal government in particular take action to ensure that at a minimum AI labs are being as transparent as possible about their models, about how we are trying to align them to ensure that they're safe.
And who they work with.
And who they work with, and that we're promoting democratic values.
Doctor.
I agree 100%. As I said in my testimony, I would define American values across a couple of different features. One is intellectual property protection and our strong legal system, which I think is absolutely critical. Secondly is lack of censorship. We know there's been a lot of very detailed research into the censorship that is built in to Chinese large language models, which in my view is not consistent with our values. And finally, I'd like to push back on a narrative I've been reading a lot recently about how we should emulate China in order to solve Senator Cornyn's problem, that China is somehow a more nimble regulator. It's easy to be a nimble regulator when the party controls not only the regulator, but also the judicial system to which the plaintiff would appeal to get relief from China's unlimited eminent domain. And so I think we can reform our regulatory system without fetishizing authoritarianism.
Thank you very much. Dictatorships are very efficient. Mr. Miller, you know, the challenge with data centers is that we have an electricity shortage. We already have an electricity shortage, and that's sort of at the bottom of this ramp. So I appreciate the bipartisan nature of this conversation. I don't want to get into an argument about energy policy, and I agree with Senator Cornyn. We need to move forward on permitting reform. But I'd just like to ask you if you agree with this basic point, which is the only stuff we can get on the grid quick enough to meet our immediate need in terms of data centers is, with some exceptions, but it's likely going to be solar energy. Gas is going to take a while. Gas turbines, we all know there's a backlog. Geothermal is I think, got tremendous potential, but we're probably talking 2032 or later. Nuclear, likewise. Lots of really interesting technologies in the 2030s that could be different. But if you're talking about getting electrons on the grid right now, it's going to be solar. Am I getting that wrong, Mr. Miller?
Well, Senator, I would say I'm far from an expert in the specifics of the grid, but I hear a lot about both solar and gas powering data centers.
Anybody else on the energy piece?
Yes, I'll just say the fastest source of additional energy to the grid is to not subtract from the grid. And there's a lot of coal power plants that were slated to be shut down that are not going to be shut down because of the additional demand. But we've already squeezed all the juice out of that lump of coal. At that point, we then get to, what is the speed of new construction and adding to the grid? And you're absolutely right. Whether you love renewables or hate renewables, hard-nosed, fiscally minded companies have identified that the fastest new capacity to add is solar plus storage, I would say, solar plus storage being key. And gas turbines could be fast, but there is the backlog, as you mentioned. They're completely sold out for the next few years, and they're going to build a new factory to build more turbines, but that'll take even more years. And when you are taking out a $100 billion loan to build, an unfathomably large data center, what you really care about is speed. How fast are you going to be able to actually earn money on that investment? And that's where, speed to power and solar come into play.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank